morning, Helen Zaremus with ABC News. Sydney residents will find out today if further COVID restrictions will be imposed over Christmas. New South Wales Cabinet's holding an emergency meeting with health chiefs ahead of the release of today's figures from Sydney's Northern Beaches cluster. The Premier, Gladys Berejiklian, says she'll consider today's numbers and the fact it's Christmas when deciding on easing or strengthening restrictions across Sydney. But epidemiologist Catherine Bennett says it would be a mistake to ease the rules just because it's Christmas.
I would be mandating masks. Capping the number of people to the home is unfortunate, but particularly I think people need to be very mindful if they have older relatives and they're bringing them into a home with people from across other households. So I wouldn't be relaxing restrictions at this point.
Victoria's recorded one new coronavirus case. It's a returned international traveller who's in hotel quarantine. Meanwhile, Victorian health authorities are tracing secondary contacts of a teenager who tested positive after returning from Sydney. A Queensland man stuck in Britain with his family because of the pandemic is appealing to the federal government to provide more emergency flights home. Sean says he and his wife and 2 kids have a Singapore Airlines flight booked for next February. But overnight, Singapore joined more than 40 other countries in banning flights from Britain because of its new strain of coronavirus. Sean says thousands of Australians just want to go home and many have run out of options.
Get the Qantas birds in the air and figure out a place to quarantine us. You know, it's not, I don't see it overly complicated. We're paying for it, you know. Many of us, we're all going to pay for it. So use the funds and allocate it correctly.
The federal opposition leader Anthony Albanese says the government should roll out a vaccine as soon as one receives Australian regulatory approval. The government's working towards distributing a coronavirus vaccine to vulnerable Australians from March. But Anthony Albanese says if one is given a green light by the Therapeutic Goods Administration before then, the government should make it available immediately.
Once the TGA approves a vaccine, like any other drug, then what they're saying, the professional body, is that it's ready to go. Well, if it's ready to go, let's roll it out.
Australia's e-safety commissioner says concern about limiting free speech has prevented previous governments from legislating against online abuse. The government's releasing draft laws today to give the commissioner the power to order the removal of harmful content from the internet within 24 hours. The e-safety commissioner, Julie Inman-Grant, says freedom of speech is damaged by serious cyber abuse, not the laws designed to prevent it.
Unbridled free speech, including hate speech, violent threats, racism, misogyny, all of these, if these aren't kept in check, this actually leads to suppression of speech because these voices that we want to promote are no longer protected.
The Federal Communications Minister, Paul Fletcher's refused to reveal whether a review into corporate expenses at Australia Post has cleared its CEO. An investigation was launched after Christine Holgate revealed luxury watches were given to senior employees for sealing a lucrative deal for the company. The revelations drew a furious response from the Prime Minister Scott Morrison. But the Australian Financial Review's reported Ms Holgate was found not to have breached any rules. The Communications Minister Paul Fletcher says the findings will not be made public.
It's been considered by Cabinet. Cabinet considered that matter, and we've said as much about it as we intend to say.
To sport, Brentford has reached the semi-final of a major tournament in English soccer for the first time. The second division side beat the Premier League's Newcastle United 1-0 in this morning's League Cup quarter-final. Josh Da Silva scored the winner in the 66th minute. In cricket, an extraordinary innings by Mohammad Rizwan has lifted Pakistan to victory in the third and final T20 match against New Zealand. The opener belted 89 from 59 deliveries as Pakistan passed the home side 7 for 173 in the last over. It was the fourth highest successful run chase by Pakistan in T20 internationals, but the Black Caps had already clinched the best of 3 game series. The two teams will now prepare for a 2-test series starting on Boxing Day. And the US basketball's new NBA season begins today. This is ABC News.